The galaxy was losing. For millennia, the stars had flickered dimly under the weight of war. Empires clashed in the cold void, their forces stretching across distant nebulae, once vibrant worlds now reduced to lifeless husks. The Zithriths, a race of biomechanical conquerors, had spread like a shadow across the galaxy, draining the light from entire systems. No one seemed to have the strength to resist. But then, Earth answered the call. At first, they didn't even realize it. Earth, isolated and quiet in its small corner of the Milky Way, had been untouched by the vast intergalactic struggle. Humanity, wrapped in its own problems, had no idea the universe was teetering on the brink of collapse. It was a sudden signal, barely a whisper, across a network of ancient, buried technologies, the kind humanity had forgotten in its rise to dominance on its own planet. An old ship's communication array, long dormant, blinked to life. The message was simple but desperate. "Help us." The plea was encrypted so well that no one on Earth knew it wasn't just another mysterious anomaly in the chaos of space. But when the message was decoded by a team of rogue scientists, it opened the gates to a terrifying reality. This was no ordinary cry for help. It was a final last-ditch effort from a galactic coalition who had seen their last allies fall, their last hopes fading. The Zithriths were coming for Earth next. When the message reached the highest military councils on Earth, they hesitated. Earth had never been part of the cosmic game, never shared in the grandeur or the horrors of the interstellar war. But then, a new wave of urgency took over. If they did nothing, they wouldn't just be fighting for the stars, they would be fighting for their very survival. A decision was made, and Earth mobilized. It wasn't through force or immediate military superiority, they had none. Instead, humanity's response was something unexpected, something the galaxy had never seen. It was ingenuity. It was unity. Led by an eclectic group of engineers, military leaders, scientists, and philosophers, Earth began to craft weapons and technologies that could stand against the relentless tide of the Zithriths. But it wasn't just the technology that would win this war. It was Earth's way of thinking, their perspective that everything, even the stars themselves, could be bent to their will. They created devices that could manipulate gravity itself, turning entire planets into massive weapons, capable of disrupting Zithrith fleets with nothing more than a flick of energy. They developed cloaking systems so advanced, even the greatest minds in the galaxy were left wondering how it could be done. Earth didn't just answer the call to battle. They answered it with innovation, hope, and the drive of a species that had never known defeat. The first clash came unexpectedly. A massive Zithrith armada, thinking Earth was still a quiet, unremarkable planet, descended upon them with full force. The result was catastrophic. For the Zithriths, Earth's forces, working in unity like never before, tore through their ranks with devastating precision. But the galaxy, still reeling from the war, didn't know if Earth could sustain such victories. Could a single planet, surrounded by the wreckage of the cosmos, truly stand against the might of the Zithrith Empire? Many feared that Earth would fall like all the others. But Earth's message to the galaxy was clear: we will fight. And we will win. The battle for the galaxy had just begun. And Earth, with its unmatched resolve, had set the stage for an entirely new chapter in the history of the universe. The stars, which had once dimmed under the shadow of war, began to brighten again, as the Earth took its place among the stars, not as a passive bystander, but as a fierce and unyielding force. They were losing before, but Earth had come to turn the tide. ChatGPT said, "The first wave of victory was only the beginning." Earth's forces had proven their worth, but the Zithriths were not easily deterred. They were a race built on conquest, and defeat, to them, was simply a momentary setback. As they retreated into the deeper voids of space, they regrouped, their machines repairing, their fleets replenishing, and their commanders scheming. Earth's victory had made them angry, and anger, to the Zithriths, meant a more brutal retaliation. While Earth celebrated its newfound role as a galactic force, humanity knew the cost of complacency. The war was not over. In fact, the worst was yet to come. Under the leadership of General Tara Sutherland, a brilliant tactician who had once been a small-town military strategist, Earth's defenses were solidified. With the help of the coalition of interstellar races that Earth had saved, new alliances were formed. The once scattered and broken forces of the galactic resistance began to coalesce, and Earth became the center of a new federation, an unexpected turning point in the balance of power. The alliance called themselves the Soul Star Collective. They gathered in secret, building warships with advanced cloaking technology, gravity bombs, and weapons that could tear through the fabric of space itself. Terra, with her leadership, coordinated with both the human and alien races who had pledged their support. Together, they crafted a strategy to lure the Zithriths into a trap that would take place in the heart of a dying star. The plan was dangerous, nearly suicidal. The dying star, once a symbol of death, was now the perfect weapon. With Earth's greatest minds and the combined efforts of every race that stood beside them, they had managed to design a massive gravitational field generator, capable of collapsing the star into a supernova at just the right moment. The risk was enormous. If anything went wrong, not just Earth, but every inhabited world within light years would be obliterated. But the Zithriths couldn't know that. They couldn't understand the weapon Earth was building. They believed Earth's victories were a fluke, a series of fortunate accidents. The Zithriths underestimated humanity, just as they had underestimated every other species before them. It was in the cold void of space, as Earth's forces stood ready in the final preparation stages, that something unexpected happened. A lone Zithrith ship, a scout ship, made its way to Earth's farthest outposts, and on board was a single message from the heart of the Zithrith Empire. It was a challenge. "Earth," the message crackled across the comms. "You think you have won? You have only ignited the wrath of the galaxy's true power. We are the Zithriths. We consume worlds. We reshape civilizations. You, Earth, will be no different. Prepare yourselves." The words echoed in the hearts of the leaders of the Soul Star Collective. A surge of defiance, of unstoppable force, surged through them. The Zithriths, though mighty, were blinded by their arrogance. They didn't understand what Earth had learned. They didn't understand the will of a species that, in the face of certain annihilation, had come together, united by a single goal: to survive. The day of the final confrontation came sooner than expected. The Zithrith fleet arrived in full force, millions of ships converging on the edge of the dying star. But what they didn't know was that Earth's forces had already anticipated their every move. It was a war of attrition, but one the Zithriths were ill-prepared for. As the Zithriths charged toward Earth's home system, Earth's allies, empowered by the strategies Earth had shared, took to the skies, joining the fray, dismantling the Zithriths' perfect machine-like order with chaos. General Terra Sutherland stood at the helm of Earth's flagship, the Orion's Fury. Her mind was clear, focused on the singular moment when the plan would come together. With a single command, the gravitational field generator came online. The heart of the dying star, once a symbol of destruction, was now a weapon capable of ending the war. "Now," Terra whispered, her voice barely audible as she stood on the bridge, watching the tactical screens. The star, already at the brink of collapse, exploded with blinding force. The shockwave hit the Zithrith fleet with a force unimaginable, tearing through their ships like paper. The gravitational pull sucked them into the heart of the supernova, where even the most advanced technology couldn't withstand the force of the explosion. But the fight was not without its losses. Earth's fleet had sustained heavy damage. The final assault had cost them dearly, but in the end, it was Earth's indomitable spirit and relentless innovation that had won the day. The Zithriths, though defeated, had not been entirely destroyed. Some scattered remnants of their empire still roamed the galaxy, but they no longer held the terrifying grip they once had. The galaxy, once dark and hopeless, now burned brightly with the promise of new life. Earth had proven that even the smallest of planets could stand against the overwhelming tide of the universe. The war was over, but the fight for the future had only just begun. And as Earth's ships glided back into their home system, the stars above glowed brighter than ever before. They had answered the call, and in doing so, had changed the fate of the entire galaxy. Earth had come to stay. ChatGPT said. The aftermath of the battle was nothing short of a new beginning. As the remnants of the Zithrith Empire fled into the shadows, the galaxy was left to rebuild. The war had taken its toll, on planets, on people, on the very fabric of existence itself, but it had also united races and worlds in ways no one had ever thought possible. Earth, once a mere observer, had become the galaxy's new beacon of hope. But with peace came a new challenge. The Zithriths were not the only threat lurking in the depths of space. Their empire had been built on subjugation, on drawing power from conquered worlds, and there were many other empires, some even more ancient and more powerful, who had taken notice of Earth's sudden prominence. The victory over the Zithriths was significant, but it was far from the end of Earth's trials. General Tara Sutherland, now celebrated as a hero, found herself leading more than just a military. She was at the forefront of a new era, one where diplomacy, science, and warfare would have to blend seamlessly. Earth's voice now carried weight in galactic councils, and though many races had once seen humanity as insignificant, they now looked to Earth for guidance. But with this new power came great responsibility. The first test came from the mysterious Vega Collective, a group of advanced beings who had watched the war unfold from their distant systems. They were not interested in alliances or trade. The Vega Collective's interests lay in something much more profound: knowledge. They sought the secrets of Earth's technological advancements, its unexpected victories, and its strange, unparalleled ability to innovate under pressure. And they were willing to do whatever it took to unlock those secrets. Tara, now in her new role as supreme strategist of the Soul Star Collective, was no longer just leading armies. She had to face political maneuvering, backdoor negotiations, and the delicate balance of power that had been shattered by the Zithrith War. But the Vega Collective's quiet invasion was not their only problem. Within the heart of the Galactic Council, some voices whispered that Earth's rise was a threat. While most were grateful for Earth's leadership, others, especially the older, more powerful races who had been in control long before humanity's ascension, saw the growing influence of Earth as a challenge to their dominance. The galaxy had grown accustomed to its hierarchy, and Earth's unexpected prowess was shaking the foundations of millennia-old power structures. Tara found herself in a delicate position. How could she lead Earth, now the unifying force of the galaxy, without alienating the very beings she had fought to protect? How could she prevent another war, one that might tear apart the fragile peace they had fought so hard to establish? Meanwhile, the first signs of the next galactic threat began to appear. Disturbing signals, unlike anything Earth had ever encountered, emanated from the farthest reaches of the galaxy. A new faction, known only as the Voidwalkers, began to move across the galaxy with terrifying speed. They were a mysterious race, their intentions unclear, but their presence was growing stronger every day. It wasn't their technology that struck fear into the hearts of the galaxy's leaders, it was their very existence. No one knew where they came from or what their purpose was, but their very presence seemed to drain the energy from stars and civilizations alike. It was as if they were heralds of an inevitable end. The Voidwalkers didn't communicate. They didn't negotiate. They simply came, and in their wake, they left nothing but silence. And darkness. Tara knew that they could not ignore this new threat. The galaxy had only just begun to recover from the war with the Zithriths, and yet it was already on the brink of another conflict. Earth's alliances were tested once again as they rallied together to face this unknown enemy. Leaders from across the galaxy's known civilizations gathered once more, not just for peace, but for survival. It was time to prepare for war, again. The first contact with the Voidwalkers was a moment of eerie stillness. A fleet of Earth ships, equipped with the latest defenses, traveled to the outer rim of the galaxy, where the signals were coming from. As they entered the dark expanse, they were met with a haunting sight: a fleet of ships, sleek and shimmering with a metallic surface that seemed to absorb the light around them. There was no communication, no hostile gestures. They simply observed, unmoving, as Earth's forces approached. Tara had learned a lot since the Zithrith War, but this was different. The Voidwalkers were not like any enemy she had faced before. No weapons were fired. No bombs dropped. Just an immense, unrelenting silence, a darkness that seemed to make even the stars themselves tremble. Days passed with no interaction. But as Earth's fleet prepared to retreat and regroup, the Voidwalkers made their move. With a sudden burst of energy, their ships released a pulse that shattered the communication systems of the entire fleet, rendering them blind in space. The Voidwalkers then advanced, their ship's metallic surface rippling like liquid, as they drew closer, enveloping the Earth fleet in an inescapable field of darkness. And just as quickly it happened. One by one, the ships began to vanish, without a trace, without a signal. They didn't explode. They didn't break apart. They simply ceased to exist, as if they had been swallowed by the void itself. As Earth's forces retreated, battered and broken, a creeping realization settled over Tara Sutherland and the leaders of the Soul Star Collective. The Voidwalkers weren't like the Zithriths, whose motivations were clear: conquest, dominance, and annihilation of anything in their path. The Voidwalkers didn't operate on a plane of understanding that Earth could fathom. Their silence, Their eerie method of erasing entire fleets without a hint of aggression left everyone unsettled. What did they want? Why did they come? And how could they be stopped if they simply disappeared? Back on Earth, there was a feeling of dread, a quiet panic spreading through the ranks of the galaxy's new coalition. For the first time, Earth's superior technology, innovation, and tactics seemed impotent against an enemy that didn't even acknowledge them as a threat. They didn't need to fight. They didn't need to conquer. They didn't need anything. Their power was absolute. And it felt as though the entire galaxy was being swallowed by an endless night. Terra and her advisors worked around the clock, studying every scrap of information they could glean from their encounter with the Voidwalkers. But there were no reports. No recordings. The Voidwalkers had taken everything, leaving only the haunting memory of their brief and terrifying appearance. Days turned into weeks. Desperate calls for unity echoed across the galaxy, but old wounds from the war with the Zithriths began to resurface. The races that had once united under Earth's leadership were now fractured. Some believed that fighting back against the Voidwalkers was a lost cause. Others feared that it was only a matter of time before Earth itself would be swallowed by the darkness. Terra couldn't afford to let the galaxy splinter again. She understood what was at stake. The Voidwalkers weren't just a threat to Earth, they were a threat to all life in the galaxy. If they weren't stopped, the galaxy itself would cease to exist in a state that could be recognized. What if their purpose wasn't just to conquer or destroy, but to erase the very fabric of reality, to unravel existence itself? The answer lay in the mystery of their existence, or, more precisely, in the lack of it. The Voidwalkers weren't just another alien species, no matter how advanced. They were something else entirely. But the truth was as elusive as the darkness that seemed to follow them. And then, something unexpected happened. A lone ship appeared at the edges of Earth's territorial space. It was a vessel unlike any Terra had ever seen. It was not human, nor of any known race in the galaxy. The ship was composed of shifting, iridescent materials, constantly changing in shape and form as it moved. Its surface seemed to ripple and pulse with an energy that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. The ship was emitting no energy signatures, no communications. It simply drifted toward Earth's orbital stations. Terra, ever cautious, dispatched a team of scientists and diplomats to make contact with the strange ship. The mood across Earth was tense. No one knew if this was another ambush by the Voidwalkers, or if it was a new player entering the galactic stage. But there was one possibility that Terra clung to. This could be their only chance to understand what the Voidwalkers were and why they had come. As the ship entered Earth's orbit, a communication signal was transmitted, not from the ship itself, but from a strange alien figure that appeared in the holographic display. The figure was humanoid in shape but made entirely of light and shadow. Its form was constantly shifting, impossible to pin down. It spoke with a voice that was both many and one, a collective resonance that filled the room where Terra stood. "We are the Lumen," it said, its voice resonating deep within her chest. "We are not of your universe, but we have seen what you have done. You are the bridge. The link between all things." Terra stared, dumbfounded. The Lumen, whoever they were, seemed to know something about the Voidwalkers that no one else did. "The Voidwalkers," the Lumen continued, "do not come to conquer. They come to return. They are the remnants of a dying force, a singularity that exists outside your reality. They seek to collapse the universe back into the void from which it came. They are not invincible. They are incomplete." The room fell silent. Earth's council listened with rapt attention, trying to process what was being revealed. "But you, Earth, you are the anomaly," the Lumen said. "Your existence is a rupture in the fabric. You were never meant to survive the Great Collapse. Yet here you are, standing against forces that should have erased you long ago." Terra's mind raced. "What do you mean? What collapse? And how can we stop them?" The Lumen's light flickered, its form growing dimmer for a moment as though it was contemplating the question. "The collapse is inevitable, but not yet. The Voidwalkers are harbingers, not creators. They bring with them a force older than time itself, a force that is determined to undo all things. You, Earth, have something that they do not. You have hope. You have the capacity to imagine a future, to fight for something beyond survival." Terra's heart pounded as the pieces began to fall into place. The Void Walkers, the destruction, the silence, it wasn't just a battle of might. It was a war against creation itself. But the question remained, how could Earth, with all its newfound power, stand against something so ancient, so fundamental? "We can help you," the Lumen said, breaking the silence. "But you must understand. The Void Walkers do not fear the weapons of your galaxy. They fear something far more dangerous, the will to create. The desire to shape a reality that defies their inevitable end. That is your weapon." The Lumen paused, then extended a shimmering tendril of light toward the assembled council. "There is still time to harness the potential within you all. To gather the forces of creation. You must build a new future, one that even the Void Walkers cannot erase." The holographic figure flickered once more, then began to dissipate, leaving only a faint glow behind. And as it vanished, a final message echoed in the minds of all present. "You are not alone. Not yet. But you must act before the darkness consumes all." Terra stood there, the weight of the Lumen's words pressing heavily on her. Earth had already proven it could fight. Now it had to prove it could create a future not just for itself, but for all the stars that still burned bright in the galaxy. With the Void Walkers closing in, Earth had no time to waste. The real war was just beginning. And this time, Earth's weapon would not be its guns or ships, it would be its imagination, its unity, and its unyielding will to fight for something greater than survival. The stars above Earth seemed to shine a little brighter that night. The galaxy was far from lost. But the battle for its future was only just beginning. In the end, Earth stood as a beacon of hope, a symbol of creation against the encroaching darkness. The Void Walkers, though powerful, were not invincible. Humanity, united with newfound allies, forged a future not through destruction, but through the strength of their collective will to create, to imagine, and to rebuild. The galaxy, once teetering on the brink of annihilation, now pulsed with the light of possibility. Earth had not only answered the call, it had rewritten the rules of survival. And as the stars shone brighter, the universe knew, as long as Earth stood, the darkness would never claim the galaxy.